A quiet girl waits for one big moment, but discovers tiny, unseen victories slowly reshape her life, turning doubt into confidence before she realizes it. The room was always quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy kind. The kind that sat in the corners and watched everything without saying a word. A single yellow bulb hung from the ceiling, glowing softly, casting long shadows on the pale walls. She sat near the window. The glass was slightly dusty, and outside, the sky looked gray even when it wasn't. People passed by on the street below. They walked fast, like they had somewhere important to go, like they mattered. She watched them every day. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, like she was trying to take up less space. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers gently twisting together. Without her noticing, she always thought the same thing. One day, I will change. But that one day never came. She believed that confidence was something big, something loud, something that arrived suddenly, like a bright light filling a dark room. She thought it would come after one great moment, one success, one achievement, one perfect day. Until then, she felt like she was waiting to feel enough, waiting to feel seen, waiting to feel real. The room behind her held small signs of her effort. A notebook lay on the desk, its pages half filled with neat handwriting that slowly turned messy toward the end. A cup sat beside it, long empty. A soft blanket was folded carefully on the chair, like she wanted things to look right. Even if she didn't feel right, she tried. She really did. One morning, she woke up earlier than usual. The light outside was pale blue, soft and calm. She sat up slowly, her hair slightly messy, her eyes still tired. Today will be different, she whispered. She stood in front of the mirror. For a moment, she just stared. Her reflection stared back, not smiling, not confident, just there. She tried to stand straighter, pulled her shoulders back, lifted her chin slightly. It felt strange, unnatural. After a few seconds, she relaxed again. The old posture returned, the old feeling too. Later that day, she decided to write something in her notebook, something positive, something strong. She held the pen tightly. I am confident, she wrote. The words looked unfamiliar. She stared at them for a long time. Then slowly, she crossed them out. Her chest felt tight. That's not true, she murmured. She closed the notebook. The room felt heavier again. Days passed like this. Small attempts, small failures. She tried speaking a little louder one day when ordering something. Her voice shook. The person didn't even notice her properly and asked her to repeat herself. Her face grew warm. She nodded quickly and said nothing more. Another day, she decided to walk outside with a bit more confidence. She lifted her head slightly, trying not to look down. But as soon as someone walked past her, she dropped her gaze again. It felt safer that way. Invisible felt safer. Each time she tried and failed, her belief grew stronger. I just need one big moment, she thought. One big success, and everything will change. So she waited for it. She imagined it often. In her mind, she stood tall. People listened when she spoke. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were bright. She didn't hesitate. She didn't doubt. In her imagination, she was already confident. But when she opened her eyes, the same quiet room greeted her. The same dim light, the same silence, and the same version of herself. One evening, the sky outside turned soft orange. The light slipped through the dusty window and gently touched the floor. It made everything look warmer, even if just for a moment. She sat on the floor that day instead of the chair. Her back leaned against the wall. Her notebook rested beside her. She didn't open it. She just sat there, watching the light slowly fade. Something felt different. Not big, not dramatic, just different. Her eyes moved to her hands. They were still, not twisting this time, just resting. She took a slow breath, then another. For a few seconds, her mind was quiet. No comparisons, no harsh thoughts, no pressure to become something instantly. Just silence, soft, gentle silence. It didn't last long. Soon, the familiar thoughts returned. You're still the same. You haven't changed. You're still waiting. Her chest tightened again. She pulled her knees closer and rested her chin on them. The room grew darker as the light faded completely. The yellow bulb flickered on again. Back to the same feeling. Back to the same cycle. Later that night, she opened her notebook again, not to write something big, not to prove anything. She just flipped through the pages. Some words were neat. Some were crossed out. Some sentences stopped halfway, like she didn't know how to finish them. Her fingers paused on one page. There was a small line written there, very small, almost easy to miss. I tried today. She stared at it. She didn't remember writing it. Or maybe she did. Maybe it was one of those small moments she ignored. She turned the page. Another line. I spoke, even if it was quiet. Another page. I woke up early. Another. I stood in front of the mirror. She blinked. Her expression softened, just slightly. These weren't big things. They weren't the kind of moments she imagined would change everything. They didn't look powerful. They didn't feel impressive. They were small, very small, almost invisible, just like her. She closed the notebook slowly. Her grip on it was gentle now. The room was still quiet. The same yellow light, the same walls. Nothing had changed around her, but something inside her felt less heavy, not strong, not confident, but not completely broken either. She leaned back against the wall again. This time, her shoulders were just a little less tense. Her breathing was a little steadier. She didn't smile, but her face looked softer, like she wasn't fighting herself as much. Outside, the street had grown quiet too. Fewer people, slower steps, softer sounds. She looked at the window again. For the first time, she didn't compare herself to the people outside. She just watched. And for a brief moment, she didn't feel like she was waiting anymore. Not completely, not fully, but just a little less. And somehow, that small shift felt important, even if she didn't fully understand why yet. The next morning felt quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. Not as heavy, not as sharp. The same pale light entered through the dusty window, touching the floor gently. The room looked exactly the same. The yellow bulb was still there. The notebook still rested beside her. Nothing outside had changed, but something inside her had shifted just a little. She sat up slowly, her hair falling softly around her face. For a moment, she stayed still, as if waiting for the old feeling to return fully. It did come back, but not as strong, not as convincing. Her eyes moved toward the notebook. She didn't rush to open it. She simply reached for it, calmly. When she flipped it open, her fingers again found those small lines. I tried today. I spoke, even if it was quiet. I woke up early. She stared at them again. Yesterday, they felt small. Today, they felt real. She picked up the pen. Her hand hesitated for a second. Then she wrote. I got out of bed. She paused, looked at the sentence. It didn't feel powerful. It didn't feel impressive. But she didn't cross it out. She left it there. That was new. Later that day, she stood in front of the mirror again. The same mirror, the same reflection. But this time, she didn't try to force confidence. She didn't pull her shoulders back too much. She didn't try to become someone else. She just stood there looking, observing, accepting. Her posture wasn't perfect. Her expression wasn't strong. But she didn't turn away quickly. That was different too. As the day moved on, she noticed something strange. She wasn't thinking about the big moment as much. It was still there, somewhere in her mind. But it didn't feel as close, and it didn't feel as necessary. Instead, her attention moved to smaller things. When she spoke, she noticed her voice. Even if it was soft, even if it shook, she noticed it, and that made it feel real. One afternoon, she walked outside again. The air was slightly warm, carrying a soft breeze. The sky was clearer than usual, with light clouds drifting slowly. She walked at her usual pace, not too fast, not too slow. Someone passed by her. For a second, her instinct told her to look down, to disappear again. But this time, she didn't. Not fully. Her gaze dropped slightly, then lifted again, just for a moment. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't bold. But it happened. Her heart beat a little faster, but not from fear alone. Something else was there too. Something quiet. Something growing. When she returned to her room, she didn't rush to sit down immediately. She stood near the window, looking outside, not comparing, just observing. Her hand rested gently on the edge of the desk, still, calm. That evening, she opened the notebook again. I looked up today, she wrote. She stared at the sentence. A soft breath left her lips. Then she turned the page. More lines began to appear over the next few days. Small ones, simple ones. I didn't give up. I tried again. I stayed a little longer. I spoke one more word. Each sentence was small, each moment almost invisible. But they added up quietly, slowly, like drops of water filling a glass she didn't realize was empty. Days turned into weeks. The room began to feel different. Not because the walls changed, not because the light changed, but because she did. Her shoulders weren't as tense anymore. Her hands didn't twist together as often. Her breathing felt steadier. Sometimes she even forgot to doubt herself for a few seconds, and those seconds mattered. One morning, something unusual happened. She woke up and didn't immediately think something negative. It took her a moment to notice. She blinked, staring at the ceiling. The absence of that thought felt strange, but also peaceful. She sat up, walked to the mirror, looked at herself. Still not perfect, still not confident in the way she once imagined, but she didn't feel like turning away. That alone felt like progress. Later that day, she stepped outside again. The street looked the same. People walked past as usual, but this time, something inside her felt steady, not loud, not overwhelming, just steady. She walked with her head slightly higher, not forced, not practiced, just natural. A small moment happened, so small that no one else noticed. But she did. Someone looked at her, and for the first time, she didn't look away immediately. Her eyes stayed there for a second longer. Then she moved on. Her heart didn't race like before. Her chest didn't tighten. She just kept walking. That night, she sat in her room again. The yellow bulb glowed softly above her. The shadows were still there, but they didn't feel as heavy. Her notebook lay open in front of her. She flipped through the pages slowly, page after page, line after line. All those small moments, all those tiny efforts, all those quiet wins she once ignored. Her fingers paused, her eyes softened, and then she realized something. There was no big moment, no sudden change, no single day where everything became perfect. It never came, and yet she had changed without noticing, without celebrating, without waiting for permission. The girl who once sat by the window, waiting to feel enough, was no longer waiting the same way. She wasn't invisible anymore, not to herself, and somehow, that mattered more than anything else. A quiet warmth filled her chest. Not loud, not overwhelming, but real. She picked up the pen one last time and wrote, "I am changing." She didn't cross it out. She didn't doubt it. She simply closed the notebook gently, then leaned back in her chair. The room was still quiet, but now it felt peaceful. Outside, the sky slowly turned darker. Soft lights appeared in distant windows. Life moved on, and so did she. Not in a big, dramatic way, but in small, steady steps. The kind that no one sees, the kind that builds something real, something lasting. She looked at the window one more time, and for the first time, she didn't feel behind. She didn't feel like she was waiting for life to begin, because it already had, in the smallest ways. And maybe that's how confidence really grows. Not from one big moment, but from many tiny ones, quiet, unseen, but powerful. If you've ever felt like you're waiting for a big change, maybe you're closer than you think. Just look at the small things you've already done. They might be building something inside you that you haven't fully seen yet.